Hi guys, my name's John, and in this video today I show you how to make your very own plyometric box. Let's do it! So essentially what I've done is I've went down to my local hardware store and I've picked up 18mm, not busy large 18mm board of plywood and got them to rip it into 6 parts. I'll put the dimensions on the screen here down in the corner so you can see how that was ripped for me. Essentially it gets me quite close to the dimensions I need for all 6 sides. Power tools I'll be using for this will be a circular saw, probably a jigsaw, and more than likely a sander just for the end in order to give the box a nice smooth finish. So without further ado guys, let's get started. Okay, so once I've checked the squareness of all 4 corners of the boards, I will then begin to mark up the lengths and widths. There are 6 boards in total with 3 different sizes, so take your time, measure twice and cut once in this step. Really important that they are the right size later when you go to construct the box. What I then do is I set up my spirit level to act as a guide rail for my circular saw. This is a personal preference of mine. I feel I get a much straighter line when I do it this way as opposed to using the built-in guide that comes with the saw. What I then do is I pick the prettiest side, usually the side that has no knots in it, and then I will basically write that is the inside so that I know to put that one facing inwards. I also write the dimensions of each board as I go. Hey, typical Northern Ireland, rain has stopped play. No surprises. Wood's in the shed, have to wait till this goes off before we do the next part. But all the pieces are cut now to size. We have 6 pieces which will form our box, and then we will start to assemble it. That's in the next step once the rain's over. Okay, so we are back. The sun is finally out. The rain has gone off. This is actually 2 days later. No. Yeah, 2 days later. And we are about to start cutting out our puzzle pieces. So if you had a look at other videos online, or if you just Google plyometric box, you'll see the likes of Rogue. A lot of other companies actually create a little bit of extra aesthetics, a little bit of extra structure by cutting out like jigsaw shaped pieces from their boards. They just help the boards fit together a little bit more snugly, a little more securely. So what I'm going to do is going to go around and mark up each of the boards in terms of whether they're going to be a male or female joint. Cut obviously the width of each of the boards 18mm. So we'll make sure the boards are that width and then we'll start cutting out each of those pieces once we have them marked up. Should be fairly straightforward, just takes a little bit of thinking to make sure you get each of the boards married up to each other. So take your time. I'm going to make sure I take my time. Probably on my biggest board, the 30x24 board, I will make all female joints and the rest will all be male. Let's see how we get on. Okay, so as I said, I decided to make all of the cuts on the larger 30" by 24" boards female cuts. So what I do is I divide each of the lengths and widths into thirds. I then take the middle third and that is where I'm going to cut inward 18mm, which is the thickness of the plyboard. In this situation, I decided to freehand cut them with a jigsaw. I think on hindsight, I would probably set up a guide rail just to make the cuts that little bit straighter. Found that with the jigsaw, doing it freehand, you could deviate off the line slightly, and I think that makes joining them up that little bit harder later on. Then what I'll do here is I'll take the board next to it and I use them cuts as guidelines in order to create the male counterparts. Again, you see me here cutting them out with freehand on the jigsaw. Take your time with this bit, they must be accurate in order to get a completely square box. If you do that, later on when you go to construct it, it should be a lot easier for you. Okay, so we now have 4 sides of our box cut out in jigsaw shapes, male and female sides. They made up quite well. I'm going to go through and just fine tune a few of them. They may be a wee bit short. Just with a chisel, just take a bit more material and they should slot together nicely. We're going to screw that box together. 2 end pieces, mark them up as accurately as they can and they'll slot straight in the top nice and tight. That'll get our box really sound. Let's go. Okay, so what I do here is I drill pilot holes first of all before driving the screw through. I'm using decking screws here and I use 2 decking screws on the long sections and 1 screw on the short sections, as you'll see. Really top tip is to pilot hole first of all. This will avoid the wood splitting on you and causing a big mess of your project later on. Right, so we have the makings of a box so far. It's not perfect. It's the first one that I've made. So there's a few areas where, you know, it be slightly raised up. Maybe the cut hasn't been perfect, but I can go around at the end and I'll probably smooth out a lot of those imperfections, hide the mistakes, as it were. I mean, at the end of the day, this box is just going to be used for exercises, plyometric. So I'm not overly concerned. If this was something a little bit more particular, maybe for the house, I think I would care more. But this is, you know, not too bad. It's a fairly square box now at the moment, which allows me now to take my top pieces. And what I can basically do is I can line this up pretty square on the top. And as you can see here, this allows me to mark up where my next puzzle pieces are going to fit. I can get them as accurate as I physically can, which is great news. And then they'll slot in on the top, screwed in as well. Once I've done that, I want to create a handle on either end as well, just for ease of carrying. We'll crack on with the next bit and see how we get on. Cool. Let's see if it fits. So I think we're going to be fine, actually. I think we're going to be good. I'm not going to put it all the way on yet because I want to put the handle in before I completely seal it in. Obviously, once it's sealed together, I will be able to get a little piece of wood out. So I will mark that up, get it drilled and cut out before finally using the mallet to put a persuasion to get it sealed in. Screw it up and we have a box. See how we go. Okay, so here I am marking up the position of the handles. To be fair, this was done by eye. I kind of put my hand in the general area of where I thought the handle should be, measured inward from there to get my start measurement, and that's where it began. So here I am measuring up the diameter, which is determined by my hole boring tool. It's the best I have. They're not fun to use. Center pointed them, drilled them in, and you can see I almost fall through the box. Good fun there. Finish it off then with a jigsaw, and that gives me the perfect handle. With a bit of a router, I would clean that up later. So here I am trying very easily, as you can see, to put the lid on. It wasn't that easy in reality. I did have to go around and do a bit of trimming and a bit of shaving here and there just to get that to fit nice and snugly. You may well come across the same issue. It really just depends how well each of the sections were cut and how straight your lines were. Like I said earlier, I will do pilot holes first of all, and then we'll drive a single decking screw through each of the sections on the top end. That's all I feel it needs. Once you've done that, you should have a pretty secure, pretty solid Plyobox ready for you to use. So there we have it. One plyometric box is complete, kind of. What's left to do is I need to sand around the exterior. Running out of time today to do that, but I'll run a sander all around it just to clean up any of the rough edges, any of the sort of imperfections that have come about. Like I say, this is going to be a Plyobox that we're going to use out in the garden, more than likely exterior, so it doesn't really matter too much about it being perfect. As you've seen, I've put handles on either side of it. Again, they're not perfectly smooth. If I had a router, I'd probably just run a little bit of a bevel on the edge just to make it a bit nicer to hold. But again, don't have one at the moment. Might do that in the future, never know. Got to decide whether or not I'm going to paint it. Probably going to etch in a logo, just the heights on it at some point. But I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something. Go ahead and give it a go yourselves. Building your own Plyobox for your home gym or just for the house in general. Useful piece of exercise equipment to have. Guys, thanks very much for watching. If you liked what you saw today, give me a like, hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.